All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight about our webinar. I am going to get us started for the sake of time. So I am going to start by introducing myself. I am Dr. Leah Jeunnette. I am the director of our Master's in Bioethics and Medical Humanities program here at Case Western Reserve University. I'm also the Associate Director of Educational Programs and a Senior Research Associate Level 2 in our Department of Bioethics. I also do clinical ethics at university hospitals, but a great thing to add is I'm also an alum of this master's program. I graduated in 2009, and so this program is held dearly in my heart because of that as well. Tonight's webinar is going to focus on this concept of searching for discernment. A lot of times students go into college, university, higher education, and they either are not entirely sure of a career direction or they're looking for options because maybe the career direction they initially were pursuing isn't a good fit for them for various reasons. And so I think it's really something important to think about when it comes to searching for career discernment. And what does that mean and what does it look like, especially within the world of bioethics and medical humanities? So today we're going to talk just briefly about Case Western Reserve University and our School of Medicine so you can get to know us a little bit. I'm going to talk about why people might study bioethics and or medical humanities. We'll talk more specifically about searching for career discernment and what does that mean and what does it look like. Our MA, I'll give an overview of our MA program. And then we'll do just general application financial aid coverage quickly. And then I will leave time for Q&A at the end. If you are watching the recording, you are welcome to submit questions to us via email, and there'll be an email address and a QR code at the end of the presentation. But if you are live with us right now, you are welcome to submit questions anytime throughout the presentation. I'll save it for the end, but feel free to submit it when a question comes to mind using the Q&A feature here on Zoom. So I am at Case Western Reserve University. We are located in Cleveland, Ohio. Our School of Medicine is one of many schools here at Case, including our School of Law, School of Dentistry, College of Arts and Science, Engineering, Social Work. I'm missing a couple, but there's many different schools here at Case, and they all interact with each other in different ways. Our Department of Bioethics and our master's program is in the School of Medicine. Our School of Medicine is ranked #1 in Ohio. We are considered a top tier medical school in the US. In terms of research, we are ranked quite high in terms of our research output and funding models. #7 in the US, #22 in the world, #26 in NIH funding. Additionally, Time Magazine just put out a new assessment of higher education based on student careers and placement and kind of career trajectories. So not based on acceptance rate, not based on test scores, but where do our students, our alums, our graduates go? And we were ranked in the top 25 in the world. And that is a big deal for students who are looking for career discernment. And so it's a very exciting ranking to receive, and we're very grateful for it. I want to pivot a little bit to talk specifically about bioethics and medical humanities. So, why study these topics? And I think one of the things that is true in all of our lives is healthcare is a part of our lives, whether it's personal healthcare choices, family or loved ones' healthcare choices. And because of that, we're seeing constant advancements. Science, medicine, technology is changing very rapidly. If you look at the last 100 years in medicine, we have made such significant strides from a medicine, science, and technology standpoint, but we're still doing that. And what it does is it leads to big questions. And as examples, questions like, should we intervene? Is it ethical to intervene? How do we intervene? What kind of values should inform policy, practice? These are really challenging things to answer. Can we and should we ensure justice and respect for persons in research and clinical practice? Is there times where that's not appropriate to ensure justice or respect for persons? Or maybe we always should. And these are just a sampling of some of the big questions that healthcare brings into our lives, whether personally or professionally. And it's important that we think about what our answers might be in relation to these questions. So many students come to our program from different disciplines. And this is one of the reasons that I love bioethics and medical humanities. It's incredibly interdisciplinary and interprofessional, multi-professional, multidisciplinary. And so we see students from all different majors during their undergrad time to do our master's program. So this is just a small sampling of what makes bioethics and medical humanities so interesting for a myriad of different uh, fields of study, from students who are traditionally pre-medicine, pre-law, or even pre-health, to students who are studying things like philosophy or sociology, or maybe a foreign language or culture, things like economics. All of this has intersections with bioethics and medical humanities. And as I mentioned, because bioethics is interprofessional and multidisciplinary, it allows students to go in several different directions with their careers. We are able to launch students into a professional career of their choosing. And so if they're starting at a certain major, they can study bioethics and medical humanities and go on to different directions. So some examples include things like clinical and legal professions, regulatory work, policy work, things like arts and humanities. Some students go full-time into bioethics. And then we have a segment of students, and this is what we're focusing on today, that are looking for discernment. They're undecided about their career path, or they're second guessing their career path, or they're looking to pivot from a career path. And that discernment piece is really important. And so I want to transition to talking a little bit more about our master's program specifically and how that assists students with discernment. So our master's in bioethics and medical humanities program is a very established program. We are celebrating 31 years this upcoming fall. We're currently in our 30th anniversary year, which is incredibly exciting. Our master's programs is one of the oldest in the country, and that has allowed us to grow the program intentionally over time. Most students who complete our program start in the fall semester in August, and they graduate in May at the end of the spring semester. That's 2 semesters to get your master's degree. Within our program, we have a customized curriculum, including 13 and a half credits in electives and 3 different concentrations, including research ethics, medicine, society and culture, and health policy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those things in detail in a little bit. We also have personalized advising for each student and dual degree options for those who are interested. I will say, when it comes to the personalized advising, we think about what students are interested in, what their career goals might be, or what their goals are during the time in the program, and match them with an advisor who will be able to provide them advice and advising around that commonality. And I think that's really important for students. So, how does our master's in bioethics and medical humanities allow for career discernment? So I mentioned the customized curriculum, and I want to go into a little bit more detail about that. I'm going to go to our next slide just to show this. So by definition, all at its entry level, all students are in what we call our traditional program. That's this first column here, meaning that their electives are totally open to any course related to bioethics and or medical humanities. And students who are specifically interested in something like research ethics, medicine, society and culture, or health policy can do a concentration and focus their electives as it relates to that. Some electives are going to be dictated to that concentration. So for instance, in the research ethics and regulations concentration, your first elective is actually going to be a designated research ethics and regulations course. You're going to participate in a research ethics journal club and a research ethics practicum. But for other students, this first column of opening up their electives is really important to them for career discernment. Maybe they're interested, let me go back. Maybe they're interested in a career in policy or law or regulation, but they're not exactly sure what that looks like. The student could take a health law class out of the law school, or take one of our courses focusing on health policy, even if you're not in the concentration, to get exposure to that and maybe spark some interest and ideas of what a career could look like with that kind of focus. Um, we have students who use it as an opportunity to explore other career options through our clinical experience. So all students in our traditional program and most of the students in the Medicine Society and Culture concentration will complete 160 hours of clinical experience. Those in the research ethics and health policy do 80 hours of clinical and then 80 hours of a practicum. But in these 160 hours, students get an opportunity to do a lot of different observation and shadowing in the healthcare setting to expose them to a lot of different career paths that are beyond the traditional doctor, nurse, PA, NP type of positions. And we'll talk more about the details of clinicals in a second. Another area of career discernment opportunity is really training in interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary study. It really allows students to kind of expand the training they've had and be exposed to additional training in bioethics and medical humanities using different lenses and approaches. And then we do have opportunities for research, teaching, and administrative experience in bioethics and medical humanities. And again, it's another way to explore opportunities that students may not even be aware of. You can receive additional training in research skills as it relates to qualitative research, which is a lot of what we do in bioethics and medical humanities. So speaking of our clinical ethics rotations, as I mentioned, it's 160 hours inside our teaching hospitals. Our students are assigned to a specific hospital in the fall and then a different hospital in the spring semester. During these rotations, you're going to things like morning ICU rounds, general floor rounds, interdisciplinary teams. You could be going with a consult team as they see their list of patients for the day. You could be going to ethics committee meetings or IRB, Institutional Research Board, review board meetings, animal research meetings, transplant selection meetings. A committee gets together around a specific organ, so perhaps the lung transplant selection committee, and they determine if someone is eligible for a transplant. They look at the objective medical information, but also socioeconomic factors, maybe cultural factors, religious factors, social support factors, all the things that go into, is this person a good candidate for a specific transplant when organs are considered a scarce resource. We also have an opportunity to go one-on-one with professionals as they visit patient, go to meetings, and really as they focus in ethics. You can go with physicians and nurses, but we also have students go with social workers, chaplains, genetic counselors, a wide variety of roles in the healthcare system. And through this, students, their responsibility is to extract the ethical issues, the ethical principles and cases in these patient cases. And it's really important to kind of think through those things in a systematic way. And so students have a weekly preceptor meeting where they meet with other students and a clinical ethicist to talk about the ethics, the legal, the culture, the religion, the financial, the policy factors that all go into a patient's case and the ethical decision making at play. Students really enjoy this because not only does it give them a lot of ethical experience, but it gives them a lot of understanding of the different roles in healthcare, the different services, the allied health professionals, and all the different careers that come together to help support a patient when they are in the hospital setting. We also have an opportunity for students to travel abroad while they're in our programs, and this can be done through our 3-credit spring semester electives. These are just a sample of some of the courses, but they are 1 to 2 weeks. They travel over spring break or in May for students to understand a specific ethical issue, a specific healthcare issue, and do a cultural comparison of the bioethics and medical humanities focus for that course. From there, I think it's important to talk about so students can understand how career discernment happens in our program, but where do students actually go after the program? And this is just a small sampling of where students go. We have students that go on to be physicians, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, clinical ethicists, clinical social workers, or chaplains, all in the healthcare system. But we have many students who go on to become lawyers or work in health policy or lobbyists, um, focus in research coordination or case management. Maybe they're a medical anthropologist or a sociologist, a medical historian. There's a lot of directions that students go beyond once they have finished our program. And I think it's incredible that our program has allowed students to kind of build in this exploration opportunity and launch them into another educational opportunity or a career path that interests them that they may have not known about or really understood until their time in our program. So I'm going to change gears a little bit. So for students, if you are interested in applying, we are taking applications now to start in the fall. There's an online application. You can see our application material requirements. I think the biggest thing for us is this statement of purpose. We're really looking for what's an applicant's interest in bioethics and medical humanities, and how do you hope to utilize it in your career path? And I think for those who are exploring, the answer to that utilization question can be, I'm hoping to explore career opportunities in the program. Here's why I think bioethics and medical humanities will lend itself to career exploration, to discernment, and maybe include some areas that you're hoping to learn more about. And I think that can be a really powerful statement. If you have questions about these requirements, we're always happy to kind of answer any clarifying questions. In terms of finances, we are a graduate program, and so our tuition is made available through graduate studies here at Case Western Reserve. But we do have something called student assistantships, and this is an opportunity for our grad students to specifically get involved in teaching, research, or administrative roles within our department. And in exchange, students receive a partial tuition waiver that is proportional to the number of hours that they are asked to put in a given week. I would say at the maximum, students receive about a quarter of tuition waived through this opportunity, where on average, they're more around $5,000 or $6,000 that are waived over the fall and spring semester. If you apply to the master's program, you are automatically eligible to apply for our student assistantships. And so once you submit your MA application within 2 days, you should receive an email with the link to apply to our assistantships opportunity. Case Western Reserve also has more traditional financial aid options through our financial aid office. And so you are also welcome to explore that. In terms of timelines, so I mentioned we are actively taking applications for a fall semester. If you are interested in applying to the student assistantships, you do want to apply by this priority 2 deadline by May 15th. And this is an opportunity for you to be eligible for student assistantships. You then would submit your student assistantship application on June 1st. Our final deadline to apply to our master's program is August 1st. Orientation is August 21st, and then we start our fall semester August 24th. And so you don't give yourself much of a timeline if you're submitting on August 1st in order to have us render a decision and you to make a decision to join our program. And that could include moving to Cleveland because we are an in-person program. So I would recommend, thinking about our August 1st deadline as a last final deadline, but the sooner you submit, the sooner you can get an application decision. We do rolling admissions, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks to render a decision for students. All right. I'm going to open it up to questions. I see that we've had a number of questions submitted, but if you want to email me a specific question, you're welcome to do so at bioethics@case.edu. Another place to submit, to think about how to cover questions is scheduling a one-on-one meeting with me. You can scan the QR code here, or you can email me and I can send you the link to set up a meeting time. But I see that there are some questions submitted, so I'm going to start with some of these. So one of our attendees is saying, looking at a career in clinical bioethics with a JD, how would a dual degree program potentially be beneficial for this? I think that's a great question. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have some dual degree programs, including our JDMA. And I would say a number of students would do the JDMA program, dual degree program, as a goal to be a clinical ethicist. It's going to give you a lot of healthcare Law foundation, it'll give you critical thinking skills foundation. But then on the MA side, you're also going to get a foundation of understanding the nuances of ethics. And you can really focus in on clinical ethics on the MA courses that you're taking. Um, a lot of students, after they do the JDMA, because they have a terminal degree of a JD, they then apply to what's called a postdoctoral fellowship opportunity in clinical ethics. And we've had many students from the JDMA program successfully get a postdoctoral fellowship in clinical ethics. And it teaches them specific clinical ethics consultation skills. They talk about publishing and writing and academia and all of that in that postdoctoral fellowship. And so it's a great opportunity for students. We are a very strong master's program when it comes to clinical ethics. Many of our faculty are actively doing ethics consultation, clinical ethics, myself included. And so it is very much a strength of our program, not just from our clinical ethics rotations, but we have courses focused on clinical ethics, and we incorporate clinical ethics discussion across a lot of our electives as well. Are there any specific philosophical schools of thought you tend to lean more towards? That's a really interesting question. I would say one of the things that we really focus on in our Foundations in Bioethics and Medical Humanities program is to think about providing students with critical thinking skills in several different theories and approaches when it comes to bioethics and medical humanities. One of the things we see as a recurring issue in clinical ethics specifically is that it's a conflict of values. So person A has one set of values, person B has a different value system, and they conflict with each other. It doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong, but what's helpful is sometimes having a multidisciplinary approach to addressing an issue. And so we want to give students understanding of things like principlism or casuistry, feminist ethics, ethics of care, disability ethics. And so those are just some examples. And so students can go into a specific case or into a discussion with a multi-layered approach to think about these different philosophical schools of thought when it comes to a bioethics and or medical humanities case. So great question. I am seeing one other question that I do want to answer. And that is regarding, do you have a spring start? So we typically do not have a spring start for students who are completing the program full time. And the reason has to do with the way our curriculum is structured. And I want to go back to this. So all students in our program, their very first semester, are required to take Foundations in Bioethics and Medical Humanities 1. Typically, that course is offered in the fall semester only. And then Foundations 2, which you also see listed here, is offered in the spring semester. It's really not recommended that students do those courses out of order because Foundation 1 builds into Foundations 2. Now, there are exceptions for students doing a spring start. One example is here at Case Western Reserve, we have a program called the Combined Bachelor's and Master's Degree Program. This is an opportunity for current Case Western Reserve undergrads to do our master's program alongside their undergrad bachelor's degree during senior year, potentially junior year included. That could be an example of when a student may take an elective, maybe spring of junior year, and then senior year, they focus on the remaining master's program courses. Another way that students might have a spring start is if they're in a dual degree program. And so it may make sense with their schedule to start with an elective before the next fall, starting in our Foundations 1 class. And the same thing would be true potentially with part-time students. But if students are going to be full-time, meaning meaning they're going to complete the program in 2 semesters, they do need a fall start for that. So I hope that helps clarify kind of spring start options when it might be applicable to students. So I'm gonna go back to our QR code and our email, just in case students want to email questions or schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. I think one of the values of having a one-on-one meeting is to be able to talk specifically about your interest in bioethics and medical humanities, talk about what career path options you're considering, and how our program might align with that. in a very specific way. And so we can have a one-on-one conversation. I find that students that tend to have one-on-one meetings with me are more likely to apply to our program with confidence regarding their admission offer. They have a better sense of if this program is a good fit for them, if they're a good candidate for admission, and those things. And so I think a one-on-one meeting is a really great opportunity for students if you are able to schedule that with me. Um, I'm looking to see if we have any other questions, but I'm not seeing anything come in. I will kind of answer one kind of general question we get, and that what helps our program stand out from other masters in bioethics and or medical humanities programs? And I kind of have a good answer for that, and that is because our program has been around for almost 31 years now. It has allowed us to intentionally grow our program with opportunities for students. And so we don't just have one strength in our program. We are strong in research ethics. We are strong in clinical ethics. We are strong in health policy. We are strong in medicine, society, and culture, thinking about social medicine and medical humanities. We are strong with our rotation opportunities and our study abroad. And we've been intentionally adding new elements to the program based on student feedback and what's currently in need in our society and in academia and student interest. And so it's important for us to take feedback from our students and incorporate changes into the program over these 30 years. And so I think that's one of our strengths compared to other programs across the country and around the world. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions be submitted, and so I'm going to wrap us up. I want to say thank you to anyone who attended this webinar live. I appreciate you taking the time to sit through this, talk to us, ask some questions, really great questions. I hope that I was able to answer your questions. If you have more, please send them bioethics@case.edu. Schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. If you're watching the recording, I encourage you to reach out, ask more questions, set up a meeting with me. I'm always happy to meet with students anytime that we are able to make work. But I appreciate everyone who attended and has watched the recording. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.